Welcome back. Former NIAID Director Dr. Anthony Fauci set to appear before the Senate Homeland Security Committee today. The hearing starts at 8:30 a.m. Eastern in about an hour and 15 minutes. The discussion, the origins of COVID, and how Fauci potentially lied about it and covered up gain-of-function research in Wuhan, which the U.S. was funding, which led to the pandemic. I spoke with the chairman of the committee, Rand Paul, on this program last week about the hearing. Watch.
I expect he will not tell the truth. I expect him to dissemble. I expect him to filibuster, but I don't expect him to be honest. We have the evidence now that he destroyed records, that he encouraged others to destroy records. We have evidence and the opinion of many of the people who worked around with him that the research that was funded in China and Wuhan was dangerous, gain-of-function research.
Lying to Congress is a felony. Will there be any accountability for lies?
Yes, if that he lies during the hearing, that's a new lie, and the pardon won't cover that.
Senator Paul also released Dr. Fauci's private diary, and in certain entries, he detailed the origin of COVID, the lockdowns, and his own newfound fame as a television doctor, he wrote. Fauci wrote in one entry, "Now we know the wet market was not the source. It was the amplifier. Having said that, somewhere the virus jumped from animals to humans." Joining me now is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. He is the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, and he also sits on the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Senator, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Morning, Maria. Thanks for having me on.
So you'll also have a chance to question Fauci today. What do you hope comes out of this? Where do you think this is going?
Yeah, Maria, there are so many questions. I've literally been deluged with people, sending me their question or questions that need to be asked. So, again, we're barely going to be able to scratch the surface here. Yeah, what we do know, and I did not have access to those diaries until Chairman Paul released them into his reading room. So we're kind of playing catch up. But I love the fact that it's been crowdsourced and we're getting all kinds of information. But Dr. Fauci has to realize, not only does Senator Paul have records, we got like about 11 million pages from HHS covering all kinds of different topics, all types of communication. There are a lot of people that witnessed the same events. What we do know, just from the short review we've had, he lies to his own diary. He's lied to Congress. He lies to his own diary. So, again, I agree with Chairman Paul. I mean, is he going to be honest with us? Is he going to answer questions? I don't know. We've kind of got internal bets here in my own office as to whether or not he's just going to plead the fifth. I don't know. He should come clean. We need a COVID reckoning. There are so many questions on the injections, on treating COVID-injected injured people. I mean, the way his diary contradicts his public statements, and Chairman Paul's done a pretty good job trying to organize this. So we had a good meeting between members, and we're kind of going to split up the different questions in the different areas.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm wondering is about that pardon, because Joe Biden gave Anthony Fauci a pardon, and what Rand Paul told me when he joined me last week was that this pardon goes so deep and so broad, it covers him for everything he may do in the future or has done all the way back till 2014. Rand Paul said that he's never seen a pardon quite like this. The only other pardon that even comes close is the pardon for Hunter Biden. Now, we're not sure if this was an actual Joe Biden signed pardon or if the auto pen did it. Do you think that pardon is legitimate?
The information we've received is, I think Joe Biden knew about this. I think Anthony Fauci was probably begging for it because Anthony Fauci knew he needed it, okay, which is why it needed to be so broad. So that should tell the public something right there, that he needed such a broad and sweeping pardon for his wrongdoing. So, again, he's a serial liar, probably a sociopath. He obviously is enamored with his own fame, and he might have been one of the most famous people in the world back then. I think he'll probably go down in history as one of the most famous, infamous villains in American history.
Let me get your take on what gets done in terms of the agenda. Of course, world leaders gathering for Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral in Washington yesterday, including Ukrainian President Zelensky, who later met with some senators on Capitol Hill ahead of a procedural vote on the Russia sanctions bill, which went on to pass by an overwhelming vote of 86 to 12. Senator, you've got other things that you're looking at. You've got the Senate looking at clarity, the Clarity Act. It's unlikely that passes before the recess. And then, of course, you're working on the budget as well as Reconciliation 3.0. What can you tell us, Senator?
I think the top priority of Republicans is let's make sure we don't shut down the government. So I know Susan Collins is working with Patty Murray to come up with a CR with a limited number of anomalies, they call them, things that you've got to fund outside of just what we funded last year. I hope we can vote on that CR this week so that next week we can spend looking at the House budget resolution. We need to modify things to make sure it's Senate compliant. We have Russ Vought and James Braid coming into our Senate lunch today to kind of explain their rationale of what exactly the White House wants. Then I'm hoping we'll have a Senate Republican conference after that meeting so we can discuss, really what the Republican Senate wants to do. Again, my job now as budget chair is to accomplish something here. Try and get everybody together, the House, the White House, the Senate, and make sure that we can do good things for American people.
Yeah, but look, you've got to come up with the offsets in order to get this through reconciliation. And I'm wondering if you have any offsets that you want to share with us to actually get Reconciliation 3.0 over the finish line.
Well, one of the issues is the major offsets would be, really addressing fraud in Medicaid, but then you have to open up Senate finance. There's a great deal of reluctance on the part of Senate leadership and the White House to open that. They're afraid you'd roll back what meager gains we made. By the way, the lies the Democrats told about Republicans during the One Big Beautiful Bill, they were going to slash Medicaid. According to the Wall Street Journal, in an op-ed a couple of weeks ago, they laid out the fact that Medicaid is up 10%. So Medicaid spending has actually increased 10% year over year, and we were accused of cutting and slashing. Of course, when we passed One Big Beautiful Bill, we didn't have the Nick Shirley videos. We didn't know about the 400 hospice centers that Dr. Oz defunded. Nobody complained. So there's, I don't know exactly what we can do. I'd love to pay for everything and then some. I will say we've never paid for a military supplemental, and we're going to have Secretary Hegseth and hopefully his generals up briefing us later today to talk about exactly why we need the military supplemental. So again, I've got a pretty open mind. I've got to kind of set my own personal feelings aside here. Obviously it's going to impact what I'm going to push for, but I've got to represent the conference and really the White House and the House as well. We've got to accomplish something. We have the finest among us in harm's way. 18 have already lost their lives since the military action began in Iran. This is not the time to not provide them the funding they need.
Are you going to stay for the August recess until you get the Save America Act across the finish line like President Trump is urging?
Well, if we're going to do that through reconciliation, that's going to take probably more time. What we could do, and I'm hoping we can do, is pass the budget resolution. That's a relatively simple task once we understand exactly what we want to accomplish in that budget resolution. But then passing the different elements of Save America, having it pass the parliamentarian muster, based what we have on Byrd rule. Again, I've been very public. I would just end the filibuster. There's not much left of it anyway. It's so convoluted, it's so Byzantine. But again, I understand my Republican colleagues who are reluctant to do that because we want it if they're in control. And we'd want to block their, destructive types of policies that they pass when they have the power. So again, this is a legitimate internal debate. So right now, the tool we do have is reconciliation. We'll try and use that to the maximum to accomplish what we can in terms of funding the military, the other priorities of the administration, but also passing as much of election integrity as we possibly can.
All right. We'll be watching all of that, Senator. It's great to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.
Have a great day.
All right, Senator Ron Johnson.